Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Speak Better English podcast.
Today, we are doing something a little different. We're really tailoring this conversation specifically for the learner, for you listening right now. I'm picturing someone who, might be perfectly comfortable reading a complex textbook in English, or maybe even chatting with a friend over a coffee where you can use your hands and see their face. But the moment the phone rings, that specific shrill sound, you just freeze.
It is the universal experience of the second language learner. The telephone is the final boss.
It really is the final boss. And to help us defeat this boss, we are looking at a source today titled Mastering the Art of Telephonic English. Just that title alone, Mastering the Art, it really caught my attention. It feels so weighty.
It does. It sets a very high bar right from the start.
I'm your host, and I'm joined, as always, by our expert. Welcome.
It is great to be here. And you are right to zero in on that title. This source isn't just a vocabulary list. It frames the whole problem of phone communication in this very specific, almost, philosophical way.
Right. And then there's the subtitle.
Yes, the subtitle is Where the Real Promise Lies. Speak on the phone with confidence. Useful calling phrases plus practice.
Confidence. That is the word that just jumps out at me. It's the North Star for our deep dive today.
Absolutely.
We have this overlay text from the source. It's simply labeled phone calls, and then under the topic, it lists telephone English, specifically breaking it down into calling and leaving messages.
Which is a critical distinction, a really, really important one that we will definitely get into later. But I want to start with that framing you mentioned.
An art part.
The art part. The source calls this Mastering the Art of Telephonic English.
Casey, that is where I have to pause. Art. It sounds a bit, pretentious, doesn't it? For ordering a pizza or calling the dentist.
Huh? I can see why you'd say that.
Why elevate a simple utility task to an art? Is it really that deep?
I think it is exactly that deep, and here is why. If you treat a phone call like a science, you're expecting a formula.
Okay.
You're expecting input A to always lead to output B. You say hello, they say hello. You ask how are you, they say fine. It is rigid. It is predictable.
But real life is never a textbook dialogue. People mumble, they interrupt you.
Exactly. Real life is messy. So if you approach the phone with that scientific formulaic mindset, the moment the other person goes off script, maybe they just answer with a grumpy yeah instead of hello.
Your whole formula breaks.
Your formula breaks. And when the formula breaks, what happens?
Panic. Total panic sets in.
Precisely. By labeling it an art, the source is suggesting flexibility. It implies there's room for interpretation, for flow, and even style. It shifts the burden from, I have to get this perfect, to, I just need to get my message across.
That is a really interesting reframing. So science demands accuracy, but art allows for expression.
Exactly. And art implies performance. When you view it as a performance, you allow yourself to make mistakes. A missed line in a play doesn't mean the whole show crashes down, right? You improvise. You adapt.
You recover.
You're recovered. You don't just hang up in shame.
Okay, I can see that. That's a powerful shift in mindset. But let's define the scope here for a second. The source gives us a clear mission, telephone English. But then it specifically highlights two things.
Calling and leaving messages.
And then there is that final piece of the title, A plus practice. It says useful calling phrases plus practice.
Right. And if we look at the source structure, those elements aren't just thrown together randomly. They build on each other.
How so?
Well, calling implies the act of engagement. You picking up the phone, you dialing the number, you initiating the whole thing.
You're in control.
Yes, supposedly. And then leaving messages is a completely different skill set. It is a monologue. It's a performance with no audience feedback.
Oof. Yeah, the dreaded monologue.
And then practice signals that this isn't just theory. We're not just sitting here philosophizing about phone lines.
No, this deep dive is about practical application.
The inclusion of that word practice is a command, almost. It signals that this is a skill you have to build, like a muscle. You do not just read about push-ups and get stronger. You have to do them.
You don't just read about phone calls, you have to actually make them.
Yeah, to make them.
So here's the big question then. The hook for today's deep dive. How do we bridge that gap? How does a learner go from knowing all the grammar rules in their head to actually speaking on the phone with the confidence that the title promises?
That is the million-dollar question. And I think the answer, according to this source, lies right at the intersection of psychology and having specific tools.
Okay.
The source mentions useful calling phrases. It suggests that you do not need to know every single word in the dictionary. You just need the right words, the useful ones.
Ones that do the heavy lifting.
Exactly. The high leverage phrases.
Let's unpack this then. I want to start with the psychology here. Section 1 of our discussion is really about that mindset. The source uses this phrase, speak on the phone with confidence. Why focus on confidence? Why not speak on the phone accurately or speak on the phone with perfect grammar?
This is where we need to talk about something called cognitive load.
Cognitive load. Okay, break that down for us.
When you are speaking a second language, your brain is already working incredibly hard. It is trying to translate, to access vocabulary, to check grammar rules, all in real time. That takes up a certain amount of your brain's processing power.
Right, it feels like all the gears are turning at once.
Exactly. Now add anxiety to that mix. Add fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of not understanding. That fear takes up a massive amount of cognitive space. It's like running a really heavy program in the background on your computer. It slows everything else down.
So you're saying if I am worried about making a mistake, or I'm just terrified that I won't understand the other person, that worry is actually stealing brain power from my ability to speak.
It's not just stealing it, it's hijacking it. If your brain is 50% occupied by fear, you only have 50% left for English. The source focuses on confidence because confidence reduces that anxiety.
Yeah.
It frees up your cognitive bandwidth so you can actually use the English you already know.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, it explains why I can know a word 5 minutes before the call. I can practice it, I can write it down, but the moment someone says hello, my mind just goes blank.
The fear wiped the memory.
Yeah.
The anxiety caused a system crash. And the source explicitly mentions the overlay phone calls. We need to talk about why phone calls specifically trigger this high cognitive load, much more than face-to-face chats.
Well, the obvious one is you can't see the person.
It goes deeper than just not seeing them, though. In linguistics, we talk about paralinguistic cues or, visual cues. When we are face-to-face, I can read your lips if I miss a word.
I can see your eyebrows go up if you are confused. I can see your hand gestures.
Exactly. If you're searching for a word, I can see that on your face. I can wait patiently. If you say something funny, I see you smile, so I know it's a joke.
Right. If I am struggling to find a word, I can point at something. Or if I see you smiling, I know you are not angry with me, even if I did not catch every single word you just said.
Exactly. Those are all safety nets. Hundreds of little visual safety nets that we rely on constantly without even realizing it.
And on a phone call.
All of them are gone. As the source highlights, all of those visual safety nets are stripped away. You are operating in a sensory vacuum. You are 100% reliant on a single, often imperfect audio channel.
And that uncertainty, that vacuum, is what kills confidence. It's the not knowing.
It creates a gap where your brain starts to hallucinate problems. Is he silent because he is thinking, or because the line went dead, or because I said something offensive and now he hates me?
Right. Your mind fills in the blanks with the worst case scenario every time.
Every single time. So by titling it Speak on the Phone with Confidence, the source is targeting that specific psychological pain point. It is basically saying, we know you are scared, we know you feel blind, here is how we get your confidence back.
And that leads us back to the whole art thing.
Yes, if you treat the call as a rigid scientific test in this blind environment, you are almost guaranteed to fail because the variables are too unpredictable. But if you treat it as an art, where you use specific tools to navigate the blindness, then you can succeed.
So let's talk about those tools. If the phone call is the performance art, then the useful calling phrases mentioned in the title are what? Are they the script, the brushstrokes? What's the metaphor?
I would say they are the anchors, or maybe safety rails on a high bridge.
Ooh, I like that. Safety rails.
The source links confidence directly to these useful calling phrases. And there is a very strong, very clear logic there. If you have to improvise every single sentence from scratch, your cognitive load is maxed out. You're panic searching your mental dictionary for how to say a basic thing like hello or hold on, please.
You are literally reinventing the wheel every single time you pick up the receiver.
Exactly. But if you have these useful phrases locked in,
Yeah.
if, without a doubt, exactly how to say, hello, this is Alex calling for, or could you please repeat that?
Yeah.
Then those parts of the conversation become automatic.
They become muscle memory,
Yes. You don't have to think about them. They just come out
which lowers the cognitive load.
drastically. It frees up your brain to do the hard part, which is actually listening to the other person and understanding what they are saying.
Because you're not worrying about how to start the call.
You are just listening to their answer. The anchor phrases hold you steady so you can focus on the incoming information.
That is such a relief to hear. I mean, it makes the whole mountain feel climbable. You do not have to master the entire English language overnight.
Yeah.
You just have to master the art of telephonic English. It is a specific subset of the language.
It is a specific domain, and that is why the topic telephone English is so crucial in this source. It puts a boundary around what you need to learn. You do not need to know how to discuss philosophy or rocket science on your first call.
Oh.
You just need to know how to navigate a call.
So let's navigate into the next section then. We have talked about the psychology, the cognitive load. Now let's talk about the action. The source topic is calling and leaving messages. Let's start with that first half. Calling.
Calling. It seems so simple, right?
Right.
But the source isolates it. It does not just say talking on the phone, it says calling.
Which implies initiation, proactivity.
Right.
You are the one dialing.
Yes. Calling is the proactive side of the equation. When you are the one dialing that number, you are in the driver's seat, at least in theory. You are setting the agenda for the conversation.
And yet, asking around, this seems to be the part that people dread the most. Because once you press that little green button on your screen, there is no turning back. It is the moment of commitment.
That is true. It is the point of no return. But the source pairs calling with useful phrases. This suggests that there's a predictable structure to calling that we can learn and master.
What do you mean by structure?
When you call someone, especially in a professional or formal context, the beginning of the interaction is almost always the same. We call this phatic communication in linguistics.
Phatic communication. That sounds very technical. What does that mean for you and me?
It basically means social grooming, or, small talk, that establishes the connection before the real information is exchanged. It's the little ritual we do.
So things like, hello, how are you? Is this a good time to talk?
Exactly that. It is the lubricant of the conversation.
Like that.
And because it is predictable, it is hackable. The source emphasizes useful phrases. I want to focus on that word for a second. Useful. It does not say beautiful phrases or complex phrases. It says useful.
Yeah, let's dig into that. Useful implies utility, function over form.
Right. In the context of telephone English, the useful phrase is one that gets the job done as efficiently as possible.
No wasted words.
No wasted words. It clears up confusion. It opens the channel. For example, if you call a business, a truly useful phrase is, I'm calling regarding, or I would like to speak to. It's direct.
It's interesting because in a face-to-face conversation, we often use a lot of, useless language. We ramble, we tell little stories to get to the point.
We do.
But on the phone, especially if you are nervous, you want utility. You want to be surgical with your words.
You want clarity above all else. The source is guiding the learner toward functional communication. These phrases are what we call high frequency. You are going to use them on almost every single call you make.
May I speak to? I'm calling regarding. Could you put me through to?
These are the bricks that build the house of the conversation. They are simple, strong, and reliable.
And if you have those bricks, you can build the house even if the connection is poor or your hands are shaking.
Exactly. And getting back to the art aspect for a moment, knowing these useful phrases for calling allows you to control the rhythm of the opening.
What do you mean control the rhythm?
If you start a call stumbling, hello, I need to talk. The other person gets confused. Their rhythm is thrown off. They might say, what? Or who is this?
And that negative feedback loop just destroys your confidence instantly.
Instantly. But if you start with a crisp, clear, useful phrase, like, hello, my name is Alex and I'm calling regarding invoice 245, you signal competence. You signal, I know what I'm doing here.
Even if you are shaking in your boots.
Even if your heart is pounding.
Yeah.
If your voice says the phrase clearly, the other person perceives confidence. And here is the magic part. When the other person treats you like a confident speaker, you actually become more confident.
It's a positive feedback loop.
It is.
Fake it till you make it, essentially. But with these phrases, you are not really faking it, are you? You are just using the correct tool for the job.
You are using the correct tool for the job. You're a skilled artisan.
Okay, so calling is the active, proactive side, the dialogue. But the source topic has a second half, and honestly, I think this is where the real nightmares live for a lot of learners.
Wow, yes.
Leaving messages.
The voicemail. The great abyss.
Why do you think the source explicitly separates this? Why not just lump it all under telephone English? I mean, it is the same device, it is the same language. Why is it a separate skill?
Because leaving messages is a fundamentally different psychological and linguistic task. Think about it. When you are calling and speaking to a human, it is a dialogue.
Right. There's give and take.
There's give and take.
Yeah.
If you get stuck, the other person might help you out. They might offer a word.
Right. They might say, oh, do you mean Tuesday if you are struggling with the date?
Exactly. You have a partner in the conversation, even if they're a stranger. But leaving messages,
It's just you.
it is a monologue. You are talking to a machine, and the machine does not care if you are nervous. The machine does not offer feedback. The machine does not help you find the right word. It just records.
And there is that immense pressure of the beep. It is like a spotlight turning on in a dark room, and suddenly you have to perform.
You have to perform. And you know that whatever you say is being recorded permanently. You can't just wave your hand and say, wait, disregard that last part.
No, it's on the tape.
It is high pressure. And that is why the source highlights it as a distinct skill. To be well informed on this topic, as is our mission, we have to recognize that you cannot just use your calling skills for leaving messages. You need a different strategy entirely.
The source title is Speak on the Phone with Confidence. I feel like confidence is tested the absolute most when you have to leave a voicemail, because you are flying blind without even the sound of another human breathing on the line.
Absolutely. This is where the art becomes a solo performance. And because it is a solo performance, the useful phrases have to change. They have a different job to do.
How so? What's the difference?
A voicemail needs to be, above all else, concise. It is a very specific architecture. If it's too long, people won't listen to the whole thing.
Right. I've gotten this 3-minute voicemails where you just sigh and delete it.
Everyone has. So a good voicemail needs a structure. Who you are, your number, said slowly and maybe twice, why you called, and what you want them to do next. That's it.
So it's a formula.
In this case, yes. A formula is your friend. If you ramble, the important information is lost. If you treat it like a chat, you will fail.
So the useful phrases for leaving messages are probably structured templates.
Exactly. Phrases like, hello, this is a message for Sarah. My name is Emma. Or, please call me back at your earliest convenience at. Or, I'm calling to confirm our meeting on Friday. They're information delivery systems.
And the source implies that you need to have these scripts ready in your head before the beep happens.
That is a crucial point. You cannot figure it out while the tape is rolling. That's a recipe for disaster.
No, that is where you get the ums and long pauses, and then you panic and hang up.
Yes. That is where the art comes in, the art of preparation. You need to be your own director. You need to know the script before the camera rolls.
It's almost like you need to pause before you even dial the number and think, okay, if this goes to voicemail, what are the 3 key things I need to say?
Precisely. And this is why the distinction in the source is so insightful. If you treat a voicemail like a casual chat, you will say, and maybe, critically, forget to leave your number.
I have done that so many times.
We all have. But if you treat it as a specific task, leaving messages with its own set of useful phrases, you can execute it with precision, even under pressure.
And that precision reads as confidence to the person listening to the recording later on.
100%. If I listen to a voicemail and the person sounds clear, structured, and brief, I assume they are a competent professional.
You don't even think about it.
I do not care if their accent is thick or if they're a non-native speaker. The art lies in the clarity and the structure. That's what communicates competence.
So we have these 2 pillars then. Calling, which is the dialogue, the dance, and leaving messages, the monologue, the solo performance. And the source presents them together as the complete picture of telephone English.
It's a holistic approach. It has to be. You can't say you have mastered the art if you just hang up every time you hear a voicemail beep.
That's only half the battle.
To truly have confidence, as the title promises, you need to be ready for both outcomes. Every time you dial a number, one of 2 things will happen. Outcome A, they pick up.
And you have your calling phrases ready.
Outcome B, they do not pick up.
You have your leaving message phrases ready.
Being prepared for both possibilities removes so much of the fear. You have covered all your bases.
It removes the element of surprise.
Exactly. It removes the surprise. And when you remove surprise, you make room for confidence.
Now, this is great. We have talked about the what, the calling, and the messaging. We have talked about the why, the confidence, and the art. Now we need to talk about the how.
Okay.
The title has one more very, very important word that we have not fully dissected yet. Plus practice.
Yes. Useful calling phrases plus practice.
It does not say plus theory. It does not say plus reading the list. It says plus practice.
This is the critical piece of the puzzle. It is the action step. You can memorize a list of 100 useful phrases. You can write them on sticky notes and put them all over your desk.
But until you speak them out loud,
They are just data in your brain. They're not skills, they're just information.
why is practice so specific and so important for the telephone? Why can't I just read the phrases in my head and, get good at it that way?
Because of the audio-only nature we discussed earlier. Speaking is a physical act. Your mouth, your tongue, your vocal cords, they need to get used to forming the shapes of these English words without your eyes helping you by reading lips.
You need to build the muscle memory.
You need to build the muscle memory, and also you need to practice the timing, the cadence. Telephonic English has a specific rhythm, and you only learn that rhythm by doing it.
And the source actually mentions podcast in the title. Useful calling phrases plus practice, podcast.
Which is very meta, considering what we are doing right now.
It is. But it implies an audio-first method of learning, which seems so obvious when you think about it.
It is perfect alignment. If you want to get better at basketball, you play basketball. If you want to get better at an audio-only format, like a phone call, you should learn via an audio-only format. Listen and then repeat.
It's immersive learning.
Exactly. The source is suggesting a clear loop here, a cycle. The input is the useful phrases. That is the knowledge. The output is the practice. That is the action. And the result of that cycle is confidence.
It is an equation. Phrases plus practice equals confidence.
And you cannot cheat the equation. You cannot skip the practice part and expect the confidence to just magically appear. It doesn't work that way.
I think for our listeners, for the learner, this is the hardest part. It is easy to passively consume content. It is easy to listen to this deep dive right now and nod your head and think that makes sense. It is much, much harder to actually open your mouth and practice speaking into the void, or even scarier, to a real person.
It is. It is the activation energy that's required. But that is why the source calls it mastering the art. Mastery requires effort. It requires dedication. But the reward, the ability to pick up the phone without that spike of adrenaline and fear, is massive.
It really opens up the world. Suddenly you are not afraid to make that doctor's appointment you've been putting off.
You are not afraid to call a client to clarify a detail.
You are not afraid to leave a message for a friend inviting them to dinner. These small things add up.
It transforms the phone from an enemy, from a monster under the bed, into a tool. A simple tool in your toolkit. And that is what useful calling phrases are. They are the tools that let you take control of the interaction.
So to summarize, we have really unpacked this source. We have looked at the art of it, the confidence, the crucial distinction between calling and leaving messages, and the absolute necessity of practice. It is a really comprehensive guide packed into just a few lines of text.
It really is. It covers the mindset, the skill set, and the method. It's a complete system.
As we wrap up, let's think about the so what for our listener. Why does this matter beyond just, being able to order a pizza without having a panic attack?
It matters because communication is connection. At its core, that's what it is. And the phone is still one of the most powerful and immediate ways to connect with other human beings.
Even in our world of texting and email.
Especially in our world of texting and email. The human voice carries so much emotion and nuance. If you let fear or a lack of useful phrases keep you off the phone, you are missing out on connections. You are limiting your own life, both personally and professionally. This source is a roadmap to reclaiming that connection.
And it empowers the listener. It really does. It says, you can do this. This is not some impossible mountain. You just need the right phrases and a little bit of practice. It demystifies the entire process.
Exactly. It turns a giant, scary mountain into a series of small, manageable steps.
I want to leave our listeners with a provocative thought, something for them to mull over as they go about their day.
Sure, I'm ready.
We talked about the overlay of phone calls and this whole idea of art and performance. Here is what I am wondering. If telephonic English is indeed an art, and if we are using these scripted, useful phrases to build our confidence, at what point does the performance become reality?
That is a deep question.
Are we just communicating information, or by mastering this art, are we essentially performing a version of ourselves that is more confident than we actually feel inside?
So you're asking if we are wearing a mask. Is it authentic?
Exactly. Is it a mask? And if it is, does the mask eventually become the face?
I would argue that in a second language, the mask is the tool that allows you to be authentic.
Okay, unpack that for me. That sounds like a contradiction.
When you are paralyzed by fear, you are not being yourself. You are not being your true, funny, intelligent self. You're being a scared, silent version of yourself. The fear is the thing that is inauthentic.
That is a fascinating perspective. So the fear is actually the mask that hides you.
The fear is the mask. The scripts, the practice, the performance, they help you take it off. By using the art, you strip away the fear. And once the fear is gone, your real personality, your real humor, your real intelligence can actually come through the phone line.
So the structure creates the freedom.
The structure creates the freedom. The useful phrases do not hide you, they free you to be you.
I love that. So for you listening, do not be afraid to use the script. Do not be afraid to practice the art. The goal is not just to make a call, it is to find your voice on the other end of the line.
The curtain is up. Time to perform.
Thanks for diving in with us today. Go make a call. We will see you next time.